Hello, everyone out there in the world today. This is Erica Swenson Elliott, Tales from the Story Keeper. You can find me on my YouTube channel, Erica Swenson Elliott, same name. And then here is my digital virtual site, not my website, my digital site. Today I'm going to focus on, I'm creating some longer content. I want to share and get some things on the record. So this is for my On the Record #2 episode. And it's focused on my great aunt, Louise Fern Meeden, Meeden. She grew up with my grandfather on a farm in southern Illinois in Macoupin County, which I think is like a French spelling, Macoupin, but there's a lot of German farmer immigrants that settled in that area from the farmlands of Germany when they were fleeing religious persecution for being Protestant Christians and not, I guess, bowing down to the Roman Catholic Church, I think at the time. They started coming over in the, like, I think mid 1600s, or no, that's too early, like 1730s, I think. Some of the ancestors, her parents were the ones that immigrated. So in our case, her Meeden family came more like right around the Civil War and came up the Mississippi River. One of the beautiful things about Louise's story in particular, I'm going to get her story on the record. I want to end up having a book for her in the future. But I have other books in line, so I just want to get more of Louise's story here. So if you're an ancestry.com person, she's on there. You can find her in my family tree. Here's her date of birth was January 13th, 1896, and today is the 20th of 2025 of January. So I'm a little bit late to celebrate Louise's birthday, but she doesn't have any descendants of her own. And she was a very gifted academic, big reader, great student. So I wanted to get a little bit of her life out there and how she was an influencer in young people's lives of her day, and get her poems, because I don't believe they're published by anyone in the family anywhere. So I'd like to get her poetry on the record. You can see down here, here's her little school book, which I have here with me. She has her name written on it, Louise. She has this beautiful penmanship that I did not inherit. I'll show you like a nice little page. She's writing, you probably can't see that too well, but I'll end up getting some scans on here, but her handwriting's like perfect. So she ends up writing, she's doing all her little school book things in there, but then she ends up sliding in there. And I'm going to get her back to this page. Where does she go? We can do it this way. I love this photo of her. This is her in her little brother's overalls. That's the little tiny one there. Her little signature on the back. I don't know if you can see that. But this is what she writes. I am an American poetess, not a poet, an American poetess. And when I look at her composition book, she talks about, she writes some of the people that she found impressive to her. And she has a number of them being American poetess. She also has Alfred Tennyson in here. So this is all, she's in 6th grade at this point. Now, she writes a poem about her school as well, which I want to read. Thanks for your patience here. I had a little bookmark that fell out. Okay, so I'm just going to read what she writes. I am 14 years old. I'm an American poetess. I've written this poem, The Snowflakes, along with many other poems. So I wish more of them had survived, but this is what I found thus far in the family archive that I want to get on the record. So again, here's our little farm girl. The snowflakes. Out on the bare country road, the snow was drifted like a heavy load. It had snowed all that long winter night. Not a blade of grass was now in sight. Not even a bird was flying through the air. The trees were cold and naked and bare. The limbs on the trees were loaded with ice. The little sparrows in their nests were warm and nice. The snowflakes were up in the air so high. They seemed like little white ghosts flying by. They were kissing the children's faces sweet as they went dancing and flying through the street. So we come back. Just find it so sweet. She was born January 13th. This is her as a young woman. I'll show you the whole family photo. She's born in 1896. So this is her up in the upper left corner, and this is my grandfather, Reverend Merle Roscoe Meeden, my maternal grandfather, right below her. So then here's the poem that she wrote about her one-room schoolhouse, which I have some of their test records from my grandfather, and they learned more in eighth grade in their eighth grade examination than I think people in college potentially know today. So I'll do that in another episode. It's like I was reading these questions that they had to take on their final eighth grade graduation exam. I'm like, I don't even know what they're asking. So here we go. The little red brick that stands on the hill is as dear to me as gold. I have went there all my life, through rain and storm, through heat and cold. I started to school at age of 7. That's 9 long years ago, and stopped when sweet 16, when big enough to have a beau. And a beau is a boyfriend for you young people. I have went to 8 sweet teachers that I loved so dear. Some have gone and married now, but one is still here. We have spent many a pleasant hour there, many happy times we have had, and I never once got a spanking for being bad. I think that's it for that one. I just found that compared to our educational system today, so she's 16 years old and she's only had 8 teachers, one at a time. She's been in the same building and she's writing poetry um, and loving school versus, being worried about school shootings and being shot by someone on medication for being depressed and not knowing what to do about life. So I found it very refreshing to see that positive education. Here's one I think she wrote when she was a little older, probably like 16. So again, this is our girl, Louise Fern Meeden, who had an interesting life. I'll get into that a little bit um, after we finish this last poem. A psalm of life, like the Psalms in the Bible. It's spelled with a silent P, Salm. So a psalm is usually like a song of praise. Tell me not in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream. For the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not what they seem. Life is real, life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal. Dust thou art, to dust returnest, was not spoken of the soul. Not enjoyment and not sorrow is our destined end or way, but to act that each tomorrow find us farther than today. Art is long and time is fleeting, and our hearts, though stout and brave, still, like muffled drums, are beating funeral marches to the grave. And our hearts, though stout and brave, still, like muffled drums, are beating funeral marches to the grave. In the world's broad field of battles, in the bivouac of life, be not like dumb driven cattle, be a hero in the strife. Trust no future, however pleasant. Let the dead past bury its dead. Act, act in the living present. Heart within and God o'erahead. Lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime and departing leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. Footprints that perhaps another, sailing o'er life's solemn main, a forlorn and shipwrecked brother, seeing, shall take heart again. Let us then be up and doing, with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait. So she wrote this right around the end of World War I. So I think this, when she's writing about the broad field of battles, it's very front and center in, her daily living. All of her brothers were, and her father were working on the farm, so they weren't in the actually fighting in World War I, but her grandfather had fought in the Civil War and all of his brothers for Illinois. So like it was definitely around them. But the fact that she's writing, let's act, and when we depart, leave behind us our footprints on the sands of time, our digital footprints that perhaps another who's sailing on life's solemn main, shipping term, a forlorn and shipwrecked brother, seeing, shall take heart again. So I'm thinking of her, like, another reason why I'm trying to get this under the record here for her birthday week is, these are her digital footprints that she wrote in her little composition book. And I'm getting out here onto the virtual world for others to hear. And maybe if you're the shipwrecked, forlorn brother right now, you will hear and take heart again. So that's happy birthday, Aunt Louise. Thank you for your blessings upon us. I want to just show you her a little bit of her life story. About what she did. So I told you she never married, but I found some records here of by the time she's age 24, she's off the farm. They survived a terrible bout with the flu, which really took her sister out for a few years, and the sister couldn't get out of bed after the 1918, big world pandemic. But their family survived. So now this is, I think, about 3 years after their family had it, like a year after, the East Coast. So now she's at Monticello College, which at that time was a ladies' finishing school, um, a couple counties over Madison County in the town of Godfrey. She had a room there and she worked in the dining hall. She was a bookworm, according to my grandfather and her siblings. And she became good friends with the ladies there, which helped her have some upward mobility away from being a bookworm out on a farm as a farm girl, like we saw her in her little overalls. So one of her friends gets married. By 1930, she's now left, and I'm assuming it's from following some of the student women, women from her finishing school. She's now over the border. So St. Louis on the Missouri side of the Mississippi River is, side by side. So here's Southern Illinois and here's St. Louis and Missouri. And she followed and became an employee of a Jewish family by the last name of Worth. And they had two twin girls whose names were Penny and Nickel, which I find very cute. and the one went by Nikki's. It was Penny and Nikki. I think they ran a large department store, but I have to go research that to confirm that. So now that's when she's in her 30s. So those daughters must grow up, and now she's going to go find another employer. Now she's 54. She's working for this is a well-known family of private industry, Spencer Olin, Olin, which I do remember hearing the name nationally in the 80s when I was growing up. But in 1950, she was working for them as a domestic servant for, according to the family records, a number of years. And she was doing cooking and serving. Maybe she was like a governess for like the younger children or the grandchildren. Interestingly enough, Spencer Olin, if you go and look him up on Wikipedia, he lived to almost 100 and he ended up dying in Florida where he retired. So I think that was her last occupation that we saw. And then she moves in with her mother, who's widowed, and her other sister Gladys, who survived the flu but did not leave the farm like Louise did. Louise is very self-educated with a number of books and was like definitely head in the clouds with the book reading academic side. She lived to a long time, age 82. And you could go, if you're an ancestry buff like myself, and you find her, inside of my tree here. The quality is not good, but I just wanted to show you what I did upload today. There's an audio file right here that her nephew records of her end of 1971, spring of 72. He comes out there and asks Louise and her sister a bunch of questions about growing up on the farm. I'm going to try to get it professionally improved because it's on a cassette tape and I'm like recording it from that onto a digital file, so it's not that great. But I'm going to try to ship that off. But you can actually hear her voice, as she would have been like 75 at that point, speaking. So I think from my grandfather and her, he was the favorite. He was the baby. See if we can get this to pop up because he was the baby. And Gladys was the one that was like more kind and babied him and took care of him. And I think there was like a little bit of friction between him and Louise. And she was older, of course. So it's just interesting to see how they thought and talked. In a different way. And there's a lot more of their family I'll end up sharing, but I wanted Louise to get her footprints into the virtual universe here today to help uplift us with some of the poetry that she wrote when she was a young girl in her red brick one-room schoolhouse. Thank you for listening today. Happy January 20th, 2025.